If you want to make better music and make it more quickly, this video is for you. Mindset 1, not committing. So modern music production techniques are amazing. There's loads of choice out there. Modern productions are getting better and better. However, this can lead to us delaying decisions. Which guitar sound? Don't know. I'll deal with it later. Which synth sound? Don't know. I'll sort it out in the mixing. Don't do this. Commit to your sound. Commit to the lyrics. Commit to the exact vocal take. Many of these choices don't matter. So make a choice, commit to it, and move on. It will speed you up. Every digital audio workstation nowadays has the option to bounce or to freeze, which basically means you can actually take the sound you have with all the effects on it and bounce it down to a simple audio track. And what that does, that frees up CPU resources. So let me tell you a little story. When I did my first album, The End of Daydreaming, I was so in this mindset that I left all of the effects on every single one of my instruments. What this led to is that my tracks were really slow in opening. It took ages for me to open the file. My computer also crashed quite a few times as well, which is really annoying. And what this actually also did is kill my creativity. I found myself with much less time when I was in the zone. And you know, you've been there before, I'm sure, haven't you? When you've got an idea and you want to get it down and the computer's not ready, and suddenly the idea is gone. So don't fall for mindset number 1. Make decisions, commit to the sound, bounce it down, and then move on. You will get through more music and start focusing on choices that actually make your songs sound better. Mindset 2, eyes, not ears. Now, what I mean by this is when you are mixing or creating music, don't use your eyes, use your ears. So back in the olden days, when the mixers and the producers were creating music, they did it all on tape. And the only visual cues they had were from the little kind of knobs that they had on their various bits of equipment. So this meant they had to use their ears to know what effect they were changing. There was no visual cues. Nowadays it's different. Every single effect or audio instrument has got some kind of visual cue that you can see what's happening. And this can lead to you looking rather than listening. How many of you have done this with EQ? You spend your time looking at where the curve is, and actually you're not actually listening to what the effect that EQ is having on the sound. How many of you have moved waveforms around just milliseconds to kind of line them up exactly to where you think they should be? Let me tell you another little story. So I love my kick drum and my bass guitar being really well aligned, sounding like they're literally one instrument. So back in my first album again, I literally spent hours moving the kick or the bass, the little bit of sound, just perfectly, so it lined up perfectly. I used to go through the beginning of the song all the way to the end, so it probably took me half an hour to an hour per track to do that. So what I do now is different. I've got a different mindset. I now record the drums, record the bass, and then I listen to them objectively, and I listen all the way through. And to be honest with you, if they sound like they're aligned, I'm fine. If I hear in one section there's a little bit where it sounds a bit off, I'll dive into that section and fix that little bit. And if they sound completely off, I'll re-record the offending instrument. And the added benefit of ears, not eyes, is you're actually training your ears to be better at objectively listening to things. The more you do this, the better your listening skills get, and you make better choices. Mindset 3, perfection over progress. Are there any perfectionists watching this? Come and leave your craziest example of perfectionism in the comments. I think it'd be really fun to read. So my best example of perfectionism is my first album again. So I am a drummer and I love making sure that the sound of my drums is as good as it can be. And I got obsessed with my snare drum sound. I spent hours compressing, tweaking EQ, and I probably spent about 10 hours on the snare sound for that album. And frankly, it did not make the songs better. Have you heard the phrase done is better than perfect? I'm not the biggest fan of this as a phrase, but it does have quite a lot of value in this context here. You can spend hours agonizing over a mix without actually making material improvements. And this can come down to not knowing what sounds good enough. So again, trust your ears, start training your ears, and you'll start to understand actually how to address this mindset. The best progress in anything comes from doing things repeatedly. Get your songs finished, and with each completed track, you're a little bit better than you were before. Be patient, make faster decisions, trust your ears, and focus on getting your songs finished and released rather than being perfect. Mindset 4, weird rules. Now, this is actually quite a fun one. Going back to my first album, I put on myself a number of crazy rules. Check these out. The drums need to be recorded in a complete take with no editing, no double tracking of vocals. Guitars must be recorded through an amp, and the tempo of the song shouldn't just be a fixed tempo all the way through. It should be like a live performance and flow with the musicians. These were real rules I put around myself. I have no idea why I did it. If you've got any examples of rules that you're applying to your music now, put them in the comments. Again, it'd be great to read. There are no rules in music except one. If it sounds good, it is good. So now I record my drums in sections and they sound great. I double track my vocals and sometimes triple track them. And again, they sound way better. I record my guitar through a software amp and I have a fixed tempo. So I've literally broken all those rules now. And I think my music is sounding much better. So find the rules that you're living with and break them. Mindset 5, forgetting to perform. Remember I told you that story about my first album where I was recording and my computer became really slow and started to crash or started to slow down? This led to me having less time to record the instruments. This also led to me focusing on getting the instruments recorded rather than making a good performance. My performances were not as good as they could have been. Ultimately, the songs sound bland and the songs are lacking passion. So now I have a technique I use on all of my recordings when I'm recording any instrument from vocals, drums, guitars to anything. So I choose a section of the music that makes sense, maybe the verse, maybe the chorus, and I loop around that. And I just record multiple takes, one after the other. And I keep going until I feel something, until I feel the performance is feeling good. And then I do 2 more performances after that, 2 more loops. And what I then do is I press stop and I go back and listen to those last 3 recordings and I pick the best one and then I move on. So much quicker and you get so much better performances. This example might feel counterintuitive with the other example of perfectionism, but it's about perfectionism where it matters. The performance is what matters. So get a good performance, get it out there, and then move on quickly. And again, if you're not sure if it's the best performance, just listen to it, use your ears. My final mindset is that artificial intelligence is not good for using in songwriting. And if you watch this video here, I'll explain to you why that's not the case and how you can use it.